Representative Crawford and her staff for helping me. This is my first bill, and I introduced this legislation to protect vulnerable adults from sexual online exploitation. This bill strengthens criminal penalties against parties that coerce vulnerable adults into providing sexually explicit visual material. I have with me Don Hayes and many members of the community, including Allie's father, who are the force behind me and behind all of us seeking justice for Allie. This legislation was actually originated by my predecessor, former Representative Martin Harrowlack, at the request of the Hayes family, whose the perpetrator was only sentenced to 6 days after taking advantage of Allie, a 20-year-old with Down syndrome. This bill amends the Michigan Penal Code and imposes misdemeanor criminal penalties where violations are punishable by up to 93 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. The co-sponsor list is long and is bipartisan. According to the FBI, vulnerable adults with intellectual disabilities have the highest rate of sexual assault, being 7 times more likely to be victims of these crimes than those without disabilities. The lack of adequate criminal legal recourse, exemplified above, is one of the reasons why only 3% of sexual abuse cases involving people with developmental disabilities will ever be reported. There is extensive and consistent data from reputable sources demonstrating that people with disabilities are more likely to be victims of violent crimes and sexual exploitation than people without disabilities, which I have shared with Representative Crawford and the vice chairs. After speaking to members of the community, law enforcement, who I have with me, someone from the police department in Troy, and Troy and Clawson community members, it's clear that many of these crimes remain underreported. Representative Tyrone Carter and Representative Mike Mueller, both co-sponsors of the bill, who have decades of experience in law enforcement, believe that this will serve as an effective deterrent to perpetrators, encouraging reporting of these crimes and better protect our community's most vulnerable citizens. This bill closes an existing loophole, thereby protecting the vulnerable adults across the state from harm. Dawn and others will be testifying about their experience, how they felt victimized by the act, and the emotional trauma of being exploited by a sexual predator. There are also multiple stakeholders who support this bill, many of whom are with us today. Once again, thank you very much for allowing me to come today before you with this bill, and also I'm open to questions. I'll turn it over to Dawn.
Okay, welcome. So if you move the microphone close to you, and I know that you have some information you want to share with us.
I do. Can you hear me okay? Madam Chairwoman Crawford and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to each of you and shed some light as to what caused us to be in your company today, delivering support for House Bill 4076. We have been on a journey to get here for just over a year. Mark and I did not choose the way this trip began, but we do believe in the power of achieving a positive ending. We are proud teachers in the Troy School District with a combined 52 years of service. I helped author this bill, which was reintroduced, as Representative Kuppa said, in January of 2019. The bill was sparked by a personal experience we had with our own daughter, Allie, a victim of an online predator. Sorry, I lost my spot. Where am I? Who admitted that he targeted her because she has an intellectual disability and he knew she would be easy to trick. In one 11-minute contact, he coerced her, intimidated, and frightened her. Allie sent 5 photos and obeyed his typed commands that came one after another, one of which was, back up the camera so I can see more of you. And some he repeated again and again if she did not respond quickly due to her cognitive impairment. He commanded her to do things for his own pleasure. Fear and distress are seen on her face in every picture. Because our daughter was over 18 at that time, she was 19. No Michigan law that addresses solicitation of explicit photos or sexual abuse, assault, or exploitation of vulnerable people were applicable. In an attempt at getting some justice, the City of Troy attorney, Lori Bloom, charged this person with illegal use of a telecommunications device having a lewd and lascivious conversation, which is a misdemeanor in Troy. This predator was sentenced to 6 days in jail, as Representative Kuppa mentioned, probation for a year, and a psychological evaluation. Case closed. Not so fast. As a special educator and mother, I could not unveil this gap in legislation and walk away from it. I am wired to help special education students and chose this as a career long before God gave us Allie. I vowed to make Michigan safe for my past, present, and future students. This bill will protect vulnerable across Michigan from being victims of the fastest growing type of assault in today's increasing levels of technology use. According to unpublished data from the Justice Department to NPR's Joseph Shapiro in January of 2018 from a segment called The Sexual Assault Epidemic No One Wants to Talk About. This population is in danger for, and I quote, predators target people with intellectual disabilities because they know they are easily manipulated and will have difficulty testifying later, end quote. Since these crimes go unrecognized, unprosecuted, and unpunished, strategic predators abuse them again and again. One abuser who was caught described them as, and I quote, a predator's dream in a written statement from jail in an NPR inquiry. So just as a, now we're gonna do the PowerPoint. It's a 1-minute wrap up. The reason we're here is Allie Hope Hayes. This is Allie's bedroom. When she was born, we worried about a lot of things. She had leukemia, she's a cancer survivor. We worried about being mainstreamed. We worried about speech and articulation, but we never worried that somebody was gonna come into her bedroom and assault her via the internet. And these are the possible ways that people are victimized online: enticing, producing, exposing, and exploiting people. Just, our world went from the young lady on the left to the young lady on the right, and Allie said that day that she was scared of him and she thought he would leave her alone if she just did it. Currently, 32 states protect the vulnerable, and Michigan does not. And I actually, that comes again from the NPR article by Joseph Shapiro. And I actually looked that up and went state to state, and indeed, that's true. This is the bill, and there's Allie getting some exercise. How can we protect the vulnerable? This bill. How can we all take this on to be brave like Allie? This is a powerful quote. I spoke with the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office and had them review the facts of the case. Unfortunately, there is not a state law that fits what he did. I was advised that our state doesn't currently have legislation in place for this. And that quote was from Detective Christine Schuler, who is here today that you will hear from. And we, with this bill, we can make it so no family ever has to hear that again. Thank you kindly for listening. Anybody have any questions?